So we're starting, and please welcome Saulius and Viačeslav.
So, it's the second talk on TDD today. So we have first question for you. Please raise your hands who were at Raimond Simonovsky's talk. Oh, almost everybody. Very good. Because we'll try to continue mostly from where Raimond Simonovsky stopped. We'll maybe repeat some things. Our talk is about reality. Actually, we asked developers, different developers, what do you want? What presentation do you want? There were different topics, but TDD was quite popular. Okay, TDD. And then we asked another question, or many other questions. What are the problems that you face in everyday life? So we gathered the problems, the similar problems, and that's what is our talk about real problems in real projects and what to do about them. And I constantly repeat real. So the reality check will be by raising your hands constantly. One more question. Who has written at least one test in the last month? In the last month? Okay, look around. Kind of one half, I would say, yes? That's a very good thing. So who we are? Actually, we are developers. Viačeslav or Slava is kind of 20-hour crazy developer, 9 years of experience. Also, lecturer at university, many languages. We put functional in front. Actually, it's Java in production, whatever. So he's a kind of person with different interests, both desktop and web, databases, middleware, Agile, whatever.
And this is Saulius. Saulius is actually he's programming architect. That means he's not ivory tower architect, and that's good. He he has a huge experience from assembler to Java, and as you can see, this experience is really huge. It's 23 years. So he also knows almost everything from UI to databases, and he actually aware of all processes from waterfall to Agile to whatever.
Nice talk. Yeah. I have also cheat sheet. It's for questions, because as I said, there will be a lot of questions about real situations. You saw this already. We made it shorter. If you're doing TDD, at least buy the book. So it's red, green, refactor, and repeat. Red, green, refactor. Red, green, maybe not refactor, red, green, and so on. You are not allowed to write any production code. First of all, test. And failing test. The failing is very important. And then just enough production code, so the test passes. And if you made a mess, refactor it and repeat. So the first question was, who has written any test at all? And I'll repeat the question for Raimond one more time. Who is doing pure TDD, like no production code, first failing test? One hand. All the time. The first question was most of time. Okay, maybe two hands. Sometimes. Okay, we can move further. There is such a thing as TDD dream. What it consists of? If you're doing TDD, your life is like a dream. Fast feedback. You just implemented some small change in your code. You don't need to start some web server, whatever. The test passes quickly, says yes or no. Fast feedback. Everybody loves. Who loves fast feedback? And who loves restarting web server? Oh, okay. Maybe no GS, guys, yes? Because it takes kind of half a second. Drive simple design. That's for sure. If you do TDD, just enough production code. Safety net for refactoring. yes, you can refactor mercilessly. It's documentation, actually. You document intentions of your code. And the last one, I like the most. I have many advantages. Slava said that I have know everything, I have many advantages. One of the advantage, I cannot remember many things. If I cannot remember many things, so better my code remembers everything. So I don't have to keep it in my head. Everything is in code. Whenever someone asks me, how is that and that feature done? No idea. Let's look at the code. It's very clear and easy and covered by tests. And one more question about this dream. If your frameworks project would allow this, would you like to live in such a dream? Who would like to live in such a TDD dream? Just half of you. OK. Now, start from simple things, OK? And Slava, your turn to...
Imagine we'll get to practice now. Imagine we have a super simple, yeah, it's quite synthetic and very simple feature request, which sounds like calculate average of two integers. Yeah, it sounds like easy money. So we get such a solution in like 20 seconds in Java. Do you understand this code? OK, it's a good sign, actually. So, but as Saulius mentioned, we cannot write any production code before tests. So let's do everything by TDD rules. So first of all, we have to write some kind of test, which is failing because we have no production code. So this test is very simple. We just trying to calculate the average of 2 and 4, and the average of 2 and 4 is 3. So now we are talking about test-driven development. So this test drives us to such a solution. We're doing everything by TDD rules. So let's move on. Now we have a step for refactoring, but I guess we have nothing to refactor here. So let's iterate these 3 steps one more time. We add one more use case. Let's calculate the average of 10 and 20. So this test drives us to such a, yeah, it's really dumb code, but it's done by TDD rules. TDD not only says which steps we have to iterate, it also provides us some advices. First of them is called triangulation. This term comes from geometry, I guess, but it says that from the TDD perspective, it says that you can get some kind of general solution for the problem only if you have tried at least 2 simple examples. So the third use case forces us to produce more general, more generic solution. So this is the triangulation. Another thing TDD says we have to use is testing edge cases. So the first thing which comes to our head, if we see integers and edge case, is taking maximum integer value, we call it max here, and minimum integer value, we call it minimum here. And if we test our production code with such use case, then we will see that our code is not working at all. So what we want to say, TDD is working. I mean, it forces us to produce a better code which now looks like that. This code eliminates integer overflow, actually, whatever it means. So, but we tried out 2 edge cases, but maybe we have to add one more edge case. Let's calculate the average of the biggest and smallest numbers. So it must be like 0, but our code is not working anymore. So the problem or the question we face here is when to stop. But as we also saw in a few moments ago, TDD works and it drives our production code to be better. So Saulius will talk about the way TDD really shines.
One more thing to say about this last slide with min, max, and so on. It's our fantasy that we had to test those such cases. We come to that later. We had no requirements that our average of must support them. It was our fantasy. And yes, TDD shines. TDD shines, and you have clear requirements. And requirements do not change every hour. And sample tests are in place. I mean, there are different parts of system you want to test: persistence, UI, business logic, maybe web services. And somebody provided already sample tests how to do that for persistence, how to do that for UI. And you can kind of copy for your new test. It's easy. Test execution is fast and one click away. I think who was at Raymond's talk, it was the fastest test execution, no button clicking, just file saving. And testing environment is similar to production. When TDD shines.
Yeah.
And we like it.
Yeah.
But we have one question. It's somewhere here. OK. Who works usually with really clear requirements? OK. Quite clear requirements. One hand, two hands.
Nice statistics.
OK. Actually, we expected 4 hands. So, and that brings us to our real topic. It's about TDD in the real world. Actually, it's TDD for programmers we talked to from different companies. And we asked about problems or hard things when we try to use TDD in their daily work. Who at least ever tried to use some way TDD in their daily work? 1, 2, half, more than half. OK. So what could be the first question, maybe hard question, you get when you start? Any idea?
How do you call the method?
OK. You already mentioned 2 of questions, which we have also on our slides. What to test? We thought the hardest thing is how to start. But simple conversation with people showed, no, what to test, OK? There is such a thing like building data sets for tests. We mean, it's behavior-driven development. As a user, I want to open insurance policy and change some data so it will be confirmed. And programmer sits at the computer as a user. OK, I can write it somehow. I want to have some policy. And what is insurance policy? It's kind of combination of 200-300 classes. And so it's data set for test. OK? That was the second problem we mentioned. Yeah, and sample test to start from was just in the third place. People mentioned legacy code may not be testable. All those nice stories about TDD, and then I come home, there's this huge piece of software. I have no idea what the other end of it does. And now let's start TDD. And the last one, what not to test. Let's start from the first question. What to test? Any ideas? What to test is the wrong question. Actually, I don't know why we still use this word test. In the test-driven development, the wrong part is test. Because we are not testing. Testing is side effect. We are doing whatever you want. We are not testing. We are specifying usage scenarios. We're documenting. change the question, not what you test. What do you want to specify? What do you want to describe? Actually, many frameworks have done this long time ago. RSpec, Ucambe, Jasmine, Concordia, name your framework. TDD thought leaders have done this also years ago. Dan North, inventor of behavior-driven development. Dave Astels, one of contributor to RSpec. Even Robert C. Martin, 2 weeks ago, just did it. Okay. Naming is everything. It really changes the way you look at the things. When someone asks me what to test, I say, no idea. What do you want to specify? What do you want to document? What do you want to show? What do you want to describe about your code? I don't want to hear this question because I have no answer for it, what to test. So we saw tests. Now it's time to see specifications.
Yeah, but we will start from tests, because actually we have to change our mindset somehow. Here is a test. We fully agree that it's totally unreadable. So please do not read it. But this test, and it works well, it tests something. But this is a very good test, but just a horrible specification. So this test might be changed to something that we can call specification. And all the specifications actually consist of 3 parts. First is, let's call it given part, which just describes what we have. The second part is a when part. Actually, it says what we do. And the last part just checks if checks or asserts if we get a right result. So this slide is actually about transforming mindset from testing to specification. What we want to say that if you change the name, then you know how to write tests, actually. You know the structure, and you know what you want to test. Actually, you want to test all the things what you can specify. So as you can see, we have the given word here. So as Saulius already mentioned, when people start typing word given in their specification, then they get the question, oh my God, what to write here? So the answer is very simple. When you programming, you deliver some kind of use cases, and these all use cases have typical actors. I don't know, maybe like admin, user, reviewer, like book, basic book, boring book, book without any pages, whatever. So the good starting point is to have some kind of typical users preset in your system. And a good advice is to, actually you can dump these typical data from database. For example, if you have a policy in database which consists of like, I don't know, 200 entities, then you can preset this policy just by dumping database data. So the answer to the question which data sets we have to use in tests is very simple. Use typical data sets. I think Saulius was talking is sample tests. You know, it's very difficult to be the first person in the project who writes a test. But if the first test or specification is already written, then it's really easy to practice TDD. You just copy, paste this code, modify it somehow, and it works. So here we have a question. Who uses any kind of object relational mapper? Hibernate, GPA, or any
entity framework.
Yeah, actually we had the problem. We didn't know what this thing is called in .NET world. It's called entity framework or something like that.
Okay, one third uses.
Yeah. So actually this is a very good starting point for any person who wants to start testing in the TDD way or want to start specifying and does not what to start from. So the easiest way is to just check if your entity is loadable from database. And actually, this specification makes programmers very happy because programmers love feedback, and they want this feedback be very fast. So you just load, print, and have a feedback. If you are using some kind of user interface library like Wicked, then you can just write a test which just checks if the page is loadable. It's very useful thing because if you break something in your code, then probably the code will appear in the user interface. If you're testing some kind of...
If you just one slide back, it's one small detail in this example. Yeah. Who works with web frameworks, building web pages, yes? Building web pages. 1/3. Who uses a framework which allows you to write one-liner?
Like this.
It's not Selenium. It's a framework, one-liner without starting browser and render a page.
There are two happy people in this audience.
2 hands, OK.
So if we get to, for example, web services, then what is a web service? It's some kind of thing which receives an XML and gives us back some kind of XML as a response. As simple as that. So if you have such a simple specification in your project, then it will be a very good starting point for adopting TDD. But we are quite happy here because we are already testing something. But what if our code is totally untestable?
Yeah, now back to production code. Is it testable? Yeah. I have one question. Who thinks writing tests is easy? 1/10 at most, 1/10. But there is only one right answer to this question. Yes, it is. And one small detail. We are artists in writing testable production code. Actually, if you're following TDD practices or BDD practices or any other DDD practices, and tests drive your production code, and we saw how many hands, kind of 2, are doing this quite often, when your production code is testable, because you have written it this way. You wrote test, and you wrote production code, which passed this test. But if you are sitting at the system, you don't know how to write first test, you are in trouble. OK. But you should know why it's hard to test your code. We will not talk much about it. Just Google for writing testable code. It's short guide. Just have a look at it. Because it's topic on itself, and you'll have many questions answered. So, another question. Many of you tried to write tests, okay? Not everybody does pure TDD, but many of you tried to write tests. And who thinks writing tests took longer than writing production code? Okay. Most of those people who tried think that writing tests took longer. So the next question, maybe no tests at all? It takes longer.
Yeah, but actually the answer we have, actually it has 2 parts. First is very technical. So I will provide some suggestions which will answer the question what not to test from the technical point of view. First of all, you do not test any getters, setters, member variables, and any other things which will be tested indirectly. The another thing is one-liners you have in your code. If you have one-liner, then you don't test it at all because it will be tested in some kind of other ways.
Java, you can't write any
We can. You saw these one-liners, like return 3. If you have a graphical user interface which is very heavy, like, I don't know, GSP or something like that, then you're in trouble, actually, and we can do nothing here. You have to try to keep your graphical user interface as thin and as light and as dumb as it's possible, because then you will not have to test it very heavily. The fourth thing is frameworks. You should not test any frameworks at all, because there are like billions of people around all over the world, actually, who are already testing the frameworks by just using them. And the fifth thing, do not test any kind of code which you actually is very difficult to code, or which you do not understand, or which you are writing by trial and error. If you do not understand the code, so please do not even try to specify it somehow. So this is the technical point of view, and Saulius will talk about the more philosophical or whatever, I don't know.
From process view,
Yeah.
some people like buzzwords in programming, so maybe you'll add one more, maybe you read it somewhere, but okay, let's add some buzzword. You're agile, no, we are accelerated agile, or maybe extreme agile. It's buzzword from Dan North, the originator of behavior-driven development. It's not quite well defined. It just describes situation that some developers, or many, experience that's a state of high productivity, sustainable state of high productivity producing code, and not following all the XP practices. It was shock for Dan North, because he's BDD guy, he's extreme programmer, he's consultant. And then he joins the company as a developer. He said, enough of consulting, I want to code. The company is producing high quality software for a long period of time. I'm not following TDD, BDD, or whatever, and he's in shock. He said, I have two choices, leave a company or find out what's going on. There are many ingredients of accelerated agile, but there are some of them. First of all, the team is not big, kind of it's 3 people. He's the third person, third developer. We are domain experts. We are working in finances, and developers were trained as finance experts. We are really experts of finance. We are short iterations, days, hours, less chance for bugs. You cannot make many bugs in short iteration. We deliver as soon as possible, usually without tests, no test specifications, without specifications. And we discover real value or real knowledge about what to specify from the real usage. And then, if needed, we write specs for code which survived real usage. It couldn't possibly work. Who has been this spring in Agile Day? Yeah, this spring in Vilnius, Agile Day. Audrys Kažukauskas spoke about XP company being bought by big and quite not XP company, and he experienced same shock, only he didn't use any buzzword like accelerated agile. But there are some ingredients. Works for some projects. Who has iterations of 1 week and shorter? You have an idea? After 1 week at most, it's in production. In production. It's in production. Kind of 12 hands. Okay? Which brings us to the closing slide from TDD dreams to reality. Use TDD, use it wisely. Remember, there are places when TDD shines. That's wonderful. One thing, just forget the word test. Forget with testing. We are specifying. Know what to specify, know what not to specify. Simple smoke specs are a good investment. Actually, very simple smoke specs like you show for ORM, Object Relational Mapper, or if you can write one-liners for UI. Which is quite strong safety net for 95% of huge refactorings. And I like refactorings. Who likes refactoring code? Oh, half. Nice, we are in good company. Real specs come from real usage. We quite often end up after a 2-week iteration, for example. If a customer didn't came to demo, for example, then after maybe 2 more weeks, we come, and so we get a message. That's not what we wanted. And we covered it with tests, we cleaned up the code, it just was wrong code, yeah? And simplify writing of specs by writing testable code. Short reading, I think it's a must for every developer because easy, short reading. It's from Google, actually, from AngularJS. So who will think, I'll come back from this conference to my real project, and now I'll use TDD. It will be easier. Just free hands. That's what we wanted to hear, actually, because that's about reality. Yeah.
And actually, guys, we are here in Agile conference, and I see that maybe some people feel like an obligation to use TDD because people all around are talking about TDD, but it's not true. Actually, not a lot of people really use TDD. So if you're not using TDD, you're not alone.
Okay.
So we have like 5 gifts for people who will ask
For first questions.
Yeah.
For 5 first questions, we have giveaway stuff. Any
So
question?
cool.
Yes.
I have 2 questions.
One gift.
But only one gift.
Okay. First question was that you kind of alleged that having code, testable code covered by unit tests is the same or kind of only synonymous to TDD, right? But it's not. You can have testable code, fully testable, fully covered by unit tests, written in pretty testable fashion, really good, but not using TDD. Just by having a special step of writing unit tests before committing the code. Not before starting writing the code, but committing the
Okay, so the question is, can we have well-tested code when we write tests after production code?
No,
just
no,
before committing?
Before committing, yeah.
Yeah, just before committing. So many of our recommendations were if feature survived real usage, if was feature not clear how to code it at all, you done it by trial and error, you got it working, so it's natural that you write tests afterwards. Yeah, sometimes tests can guide you, and you will find solution, because it's not test, it's specification. You try to use the code which you haven't written yet. That's all trick, all the when test-driven development. You try to use code that you haven't written yet, and I want to use it like that and like that. Okay, drives out solution. But usually, if it's hard by trial and error, yeah, or if you want to deliver fast and get real specification after real usage, so you will write tests after production code. Yeah, that's normal.
Well, that's not test-driven development.
Yeah, that's not test-driven development, and the T is for test is not good for our talk at all. It's specification-driven or whatever-driven. Okay, so one more question, more 4, okay? Mike?
Hi. Actually, I have a remark for this question. So what the practice shows is if you write test after writing production code, you are just documenting your bugs. Because either you see, it's a white box testing. So you look at the code, you see, oh, it should return 0. But actually by specification, by intent, it shouldn't. It should be -1, for example. But your test will say 0.
So we changed the name, we're cheating. We said no tests. So if you wrote test specification which returned 0 instead of 1, you just wrote wrong specification, okay? We're cheating, you're renaming test to specification. And this thing, usually we solve by peer reviews. When 2 persons review the code afterwards, and if I look in your specification, I do not understand what it, or if I look even at production code and not quite understand what it does, could be, please show me your specifications. So, I don't know, if specifications are clear, what the code must do, if they are clear.
You can have average, very clear, very buggy.
Yeah, actually, first of all, the specification for maximum and minimum was our fantasy. Was no business requirement. This was our fantasy. If we write fantasy tests, they are of no value. It doesn't matter if you write first, in the first place test, and then production code, and then production code and fantasy test. It doesn't matter. If it's fantasy, it's fantasy. So, yeah, usually if you write tests first, you get a better production code. There are places when TDD shines. Agree.
Third question.
One.
The single biggest problem I see is people over-specifying their code. How do you prevent people from over-specifying?
Oh, we still yet to have over-specification problem in the first place. But we still find some places of over-specification or just writing tests, just to write tests. And when you ask what exactly you wanted to say, usually it is, the answer is I didn't thought in a form of specification. And yes, and Viačeslav showed example when to stop. When to stop, no universal answer, sorry.
So, but maybe if you can practice this accelerated agile, then maybe this is the answer. I mean, you find out the real requirements and then specify.
Representation of what? No, of what? It depends. If we had requirements, integer, not long. Okay, whatever. It's nice to get question from Greg Young, who didn't know Greg Young is in the room, a secret guy.
Next question.
Any suggestions of how to use TDD with UI frameworks other than Wicked? For example, GSF or something like that.
You're in trouble. Actually, there is a guy, Lasse Koskela. He's a book writer and consultant. And he has a book on practical unit testing, with appendices, where he describes, oh, you have to prepare for this framework to start unit testing UI, or for this framework to start testing, let's say, web services. And when he comes to a wiki, he says, it's like a walk in a park. So for GSF, it will be much harder. Just don't put any logic in your templates. That's the best thing you can do. Put it down in business layer and test it where. That's the only one solution that you will get in any conference.
And final question here.
So will be question. For example, you mentioned, for example, not needs to test setters and getters, and why? Because it's tested in other places, or?
Yeah, because it's tested indirectly. I mean, you're writing tests for other places, and these setters and getters will be tested just automatically.
When we say specification, so not tests, I say what I wanted to say about setters and getters exactly. Something special, something, yeah, I don't know what I wanted to document about setters and getters. The fact that they exist, No. Actually, just from practical point of view. If I think about specification, I say what I want to say about them. I don't know. I have nothing to say about them.
Okay, so thanks for Saulius and Viačeslav. I have a question for you. Which one was better, Saulius or Viačeslav? Both? Okay, what to do?
Okay,
I will
we'll
give
get two gifts. Okay.
One for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please don't forget, fill feedback forms. So you can find electronic feedback form or paper forms. After closing keynote, we will get it back and we will give some prize for you.